Hi, I'm Obi-Wan. This is Red Chair Reading. Today I'm reading The Black Book of Secrets, and not in my red chair. We're on Chapter 14 of Frogs and Legs. Let's go. Ludlow woke the next morning to the smell of warm bread. Joe was standing in front of the fire, toasting the heels of a loaf on the end of the poker. "Just in time," he said, as Ludlow emerged from his nook. "Did you sleep well?" "I was a little disturbed myself." "Well enough," mumbled Ludlow, yawning. Joe dropped the toast onto a plate and sat down at the table. "I forgot to lock the door last night. We could have been murdered in our beds." Ludlow's cheeks burned as hot as the toast. Joe continued smoothly. "So now you've had a chance to think it over. Will you stay? It's not a difficult job. You would be a great help to me." "I should like to stay," said Ludlow, "very much." "Then it's settled. Time for breakfast." In the city, Ludlow's breakfast might have been a moldy crust or hard porridge. In Pagus Parvis, in the back room of the secret pawnbrokers, it was a veritable feast. The table was laden with toasted bread, boiled hen's eggs, thick slices of pink ham, a slab of golden butter, and 2 jugs, one of beer, the other of fresh milk. There was even cutlery, but Ludlow did not let this slow him down, and he ate as if he were a condemned man. Joe looked on, marveling at the boy's appetite, as Ludlow gulped down a second cup of milk, then eyed the pork pie, and sat in the middle of the table. I don't remember them mentioning pork pie. I'm pretty sure it was just pink ham. Okay. "The butcher dropped it off this morning," said Joe, "and the baker brought the bread by. Such hospitality." "Maybe they just want you to buy more of their old junk," muttered Ludlow. Joe took another large bite of toast and washed it down with a mouthful of beer. He dabbed at his chin with a napkin that lay across his knees. Ludlow had not seen such gentility before, and self-consciously he wiped his mouth with his sleeve. Then, for once, he waited until he had swallowed before speaking. "You know," he said, "I feel sorry for Obadiah. I think he is a good man." "Being good isn't always enough," Joe said. "I suppose you've heard many stories like his?" Joe nodded. "And many far worse. But that is a little comfort to the poor man. He is right to be scared. If he is caught, then he will certainly be put in prison or hanged from the nearest tree." "And Jeremiah? What about his part?" Joe frowned. "He would deny everything. After all, what proof is there that Jeremiah is connected? It is a poor man's word against a rich man's. The verdict is as good as decided already. I fear Jeremiah has such a grip on this village that no one here will dare accuse him, let alone try to convict him." "Do you think the money is enough?" "For now," said Joe, "he will be able to pay his rent at least, but I wonder what else Jeremiah has up his sleeve." "Perhaps we can help him in other ways," said Ludlow. Joe shook his head. No, I do not interfere in the course of things. Our job is to keep secrets. Once it is in the book, the matter is closed. In fact, we should not even be speaking of it now. So is there nothing we can do?" But Joe was silent. Business came in fits and starts all day, and by closing time, Joe's display benefited from the addition of a flower vase in the Grecian style, a pair of leather suspenders with silver clips, one missing, a sturdy pair of scuffed boots, only slightly down at the heel, and a set of decorative brass buttons. The chamber pot sat in the corner next to the wooden leg. Toward the end of the afternoon, Ludlow was rearranging the buttons in the window when he became aware that he had an audience. 3 boys stood outside. The same 3 who had been in the crowd when Joe had first introduced himself, their heights descending from right to left. They pressed their faces against the window, but they appeared to be shy about coming in. Joe went to the door. may I help you, young fellows?" he asked, and fixed them with his stare. The youngest proved to be the bravest. "We have nothing to pawn," he said, "but we want to see the frog." Joe laughed. "But of course, come in." And the three piled in, the youngest pushed to the back now that the invitation was extended. They were the sourdough, to rhyme with enough, brothers. Sourduff. They were the sourdough, to rhyme with enough, brothers, sons of the bakers, Ruby and Elias. They went up to the tank and looked in awe at the colorful creature, which repaid their interest by promptly turning its back to them. "What's it called?" asked the middle one of the three. "She," corrected Joe. "Her name is Saluki." "What does she eat?" Joe showed them the bags of sticky, writhing worms and shiny cased bugs that Saluki ate. He allowed them to drop the tasty tidbits into the tank, enough through a hatch in the lid. "Can I hold her?" This time it was the youngest who spoke. May I?" He had said, "Can I? Can I hold her?" And Joe's all, "May I?" corrected Joe. "I know that you can. After all, it is not difficult to hold a frog. What you seek is my permission." "May I?" asked the boy, twitching with frustration. No. This request was made again and again. On each subsequent visit, the Sourdough brothers came daily. And although Joe agreed that the boys had to be admired for their optimism and persistence, he always refused on the grounds that Saluki was not the sort of frog that liked to be held. "Would she jump away?" "She's a tree frog," replied Joe, "more of a climber than a jumper." "Where did you get her?" A dreamy look came into Joe's eyes. He hooked his thumbs in his waistcoat pockets and rocked back and forth on his heels. "She comes from a land on the other side of the world, where the earth curves to the south, and there are all sorts of creatures that you couldn't even begin to imagine." Oh, if this is interesting to you, please boop the like button. You'll help the video spread to other people, and thank you very much. "Did you catch her?" "She was a gift," he said, "from an old man to a young lad, such as yourselves." The Sourdoughs tittered. "Yes, even I was young once," said Joe. Joe had a tale for the boys almost every day they came up to the shop. He mesmerized them with stories of the faraway lands he had visited, where the mountains spewed fire and molten rock, of the forests, where the trees were so tall that it was always cold night on the forest floor, and yet their leaves were burned by the sun. He spoke of ships and cities that lay together on the bottom of the ocean, of the frozen wastes where the sun never set. But there was one thing he never told them about. No matter how hard they pleaded, no matter how urgently they begged. "Tell us about the wooden leg," they implored, but Joe always shook his head. "Not today," he would say. "Perhaps tomorrow." That's the end of chapter 14. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next chapter. Bye.